I'm going to talk a little bit about forms. Forms, in the past, if we wanted to create a form, we could create it from InDesign, but it was kind of a big workaround, all right? You had to, I don't know, you had to kind of fake it anyway. Now what we can do in InDesign CS6 is we can go in and really actually create form fields that will work, and buttons and things like that. For instance, I've got this file here, and I've got some fields that I want to create. So let me go create one. To create fields, what I can do is I can draw, let's say, a text frame on the name. Let me zoom in a bit so you can see this. I'm just going to draw a little text frame on name, and I'll move it in the center. It'll take a second here. If we want to then, we can go in and take these, let's say these text frames, and turn them into form fields when we export as PDF. Okay, that's the caveat there. Let me reset my workspace. If we go in, let me pull this off to the side actually. We also now have different workspaces we can work with, like digital publishing, interactive for PDF. This is one I really suggest new in CS6. I'll go to interactive for PDF, and you'll see that we have buttons and forms. The buttons panel essentially has been changed into the buttons and forms panel. And if we want to, we can select, let's say, a text field or some other content to create a button. And then we can tell it, all right, what kind of field do we want it to be? We've got text, list, combo, check. I'll choose text field. It'll put this little dotted border around it, and it'll say, all right, what do you want to name it? I'll call it name. We can then go in and do things like, let's add PDF description. Let's make it read-only. Let's change the font size, things like that. So I'll type in first name. And we've got ourselves a field. We can also go out and generate or create buttons. Some of these have already been created, but let's say I go down here. You can click on some content that you've created, and in the buttons and forms, you can see button. In relation to PDF, what we can do is we can actually assign actions that are specific to the PDF. For instance, I turn this into a button. It was already a button. I click on the plus here in actions. You can see we have submit form, print form, open file, and a lot of the same that we've seen. We also have the ability to show, hide buttons and forms on the page itself. That's a really, really powerful thing if you're trying to make it to where somebody clicks a button and a bunch of other form fields show up. So we can create these fields. We can then go out and export. If I go to File, Export, and take a look, you're going to see we have typical. I can choose PDF Interactive, like we've seen in the previous version, save it. In interactive, we can also save now as pages and spreads and specific pages, things like that. But it's going to allow us to save the form. Click OK. Take a look at it in Acrobat, and you'll see that we do have existing fields out here. So if I scroll down, pardon me, it'll take a second to catch up. But we have form fields that we can then start to work with, and then they're live, essentially. All right, let me close that up. We need to jump over to Photoshop. There's definitely other things I could show you in InDesign, but those are the big ones. So let me close this up. Let me get over to, you know what, I'm going to do some Illustrator real quick, and then we'll jump over to Photoshop. I'll spend maybe like 5-7 minutes on Illustrator. Illustrator, one of the first things you're going to notice that we've got out here is the UI. The UI has been changed. We also have a new engine that basically runs Illustrator called the Mercury Engine. You are going to find that in Illustrator, if you are an Illustrator user, and I'm a pretty big Illustrator fan, that a lot of the things in here are going to be sped up. The program itself is much, much faster, even just on simple things or complex things. Check this out. So this is a file, right? In CS5, this thing would take forever to load. But if you take a look at it, look what it's composed of right now. Now, of course, your machine, you got to have a machine that supports CS6. But if you have Illustrator out here, you're going to see it's much faster. We also have things that have been increased the speed as far as things like, let's say we go in and do a Gaussian blur in Illustrator. Some of the things that you would do before on vector objects would take a while, and there would be very little preview that you could use. Well, you're going to find that with Illustrator CS6, a lot of this stuff has been just sped up immensely. Check that out there. You're going to see lots of different points out there that are going on, but this is actually able to do it a lot quicker. Another great thing that we can work on in Illustrator, let me open up another file here, is the ability to create patterns. Patterns, there's some excellent things we can do, and this is just one example of creating a pattern. I'm going to open up another one, and I'm going to kind of pull in a couple things together. Let me open up one other one. Sorry, this one's not what I want. There we go. So we can create new patterns. We also have a new tracing engine that I want to show you in combination, these two things together. Illustrator Cs6, the tracing engine it's much, much better. It's much faster. It's much simpler. If you place raster images, let's say in Illustrator, and it's now called image trace rather than live trace. The engine has been rewritten, so to speak. If I click on image trace, we're going to see it's going to go through. It's going to be faster, for sure. We know that. There are presets to go through. I'll just pick a simple preset. It's going to run through. We also now have an image trace panel, which you can open separately. So instead of going to that really large dialog box in previous versions, you can come up under Window and open up image trace without even tracing something. So this is a panel that can float out here, obviously, or you can dock. Image trace has a lot of new features, a lot of simplified features that are still extremely powerful. If you don't want to look at all the advanced options, you don't have to. But like I said, it's just, to me, it's made much easier. If I go in and do something like, let's say, high color, which is essentially similar to what you would do with a photo, you're going to see what it does. Much faster, much better resolution as far as the vector content is concerned, looking better. We can go in and do things like cut down numbers of colors. We can change the paths, how many paths we have available, how much noise, how the bigger things that we want to get. We can snap curves to lines. There's a lot of different features we have in here, but like I said, it's just made much faster, much smarter. We can also set presets in here. We can view the image source, and we can go and work as quickly as we need to here. So I'm going to just bring this down a little bit, just so that we can do what we're about to do next pretty easily. Once I get the tracing done, I'll click on Expand. Expand up there is one way to do it. You're going to see we'll just turn it into vector content. And then what I can do is go out and start to select this. Now, I'm going to quickly try and get rid of some of this stuff, some of it. I'm not going to do it justice, everybody. Just want to do it pretty quickly. Whoops, see, trying to do it too quickly. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this content and we're going to turn it into a pattern. So I'm going to show you the pattern creation in here. So I'll just kind of dump some of this out of here. It won't look beautiful, but let me just try real quick. There we go. Okay. I'll just leave the rest of it. That's good. Now I can't stop. Okay, stop. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this content that we have, and I'm going to group it together. So I'll select all this content, and I'll group it together. In previous versions of Illustrator, if we wanted to create a pattern, there were a couple ways to do it, a little kludgy. Now if we want to, we can do it a couple different ways as well. If you come under Object Pattern Make, this is one way to do it. This is going to allow us to take selected content.
Brian, I think we're frozen again.
It's starting to lag. Okay.
Oh, wait, here we go.
Well, it's good that we're, slowing down, so.
So right now we're still seeing red leaves, and it's moving, but slowly. Okay. Now.
Sorry, everybody. I don't know why this is happening. I don't know why it's doing this. Do you see the? It should be done. I mean.
So just pattern red leaves without a background and a box around it, correct?
Yep, good. I think we're good. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go up to the menu and just see if you see the menu. You should see Object Pattern Make, a menu up here.
Yeah, we see that.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Christopher. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make our pattern. I'm going to go to Object Pattern Make. There are faster ways you can do that. And what you're going to see is that it's going to go into a pattern editing mode, essentially, okay? Let me click OK. And this, if anybody does, I'm going to give it a second to catch up, don't worry. Anybody does patterns, this is going to be huge for you because it is such an easy way to create patterns now, such a visual way, a way that you don't have to sit there and calculate this and X, Y, blah. We have the Pattern Options panel that we can work with. This Pattern Options panel you can open up separately under the Window menu. And once we're in this pattern editing mode, you're going to see that we can go in and change the content. So I've got, let's say, the leaves here. I can go in and make it smaller, make it bigger. I can add other content. This might take a second to catch up. Sorry, hang on. I can make other content. So I can, like, let's say, copy-paste content and drag it on top or change the color or do what I need to. I can add opacity, blend modes, different things that I want to have happen here. I know this is going to lag you guys, but just give me a second here. I'm going to just do it and then wait a minute. As we add our content, you're going to see the pattern out there. Around the edges of the pattern, you'll see the repeat. Now what we can do is we can change how the pattern looks based on sizing tiles to art. We have a repeating tile here, the blue box. You can do things like make grids. You can do it by rows. You can do honeycombs. You can size things to the art. You can move things closer together. You can overlap content. You can rotate. You can do pretty much whatever you need to do. This is going to generate or create your pattern for you and stick it in the swatches panel. Now, if you work on the pattern this way, I'm not really doing this justice. There's so much more you could do with this, but you can, there's a bar along the top up here called Save a Copy. So you can save a copy of, let's say, the swatch you're working on, the pattern swatch you're working on. It saves it in this current state, and then you keep working on this existing pattern. So you can actually create 6 different patterns just while working here. When I'm done, I can name the pattern, of course. I'm just too lazy. I will click Done up here, and what it does, it puts the pattern in the panel. So what I'm going to do, I'll do it, and then I'll give it a second. I'm going to apply it, and you'll see it show up out there. Not the prettiest pattern in the world, I agree. I could do a little better job. But you can see how easy it's going to be to create your patterns now. It calculates everything for you, and you just go in and start to design and create and, you know, do what you need to do. So we have the new image trace engine. We have the pattern creation. We also have, I'm going to attempt to open another file, and hopefully that, you know, decides to work here, and we're all good. We also now have the ability to create gradients on a stroke. Now, this is actually a file that I created for use, and I'm going to give it a second, I know. You're going to see here that I have a rectangle. I'll move it out of the way. I have a rectangle. It's just a simple rectangle. Matter of fact, I'm going to go and make it a rectangle. There you go. We can now apply gradients to strokes. So if you want to create a gradient, and we can do this a couple different ways. If I go to the gradient panel, I'll give it a second, you're going to see that we now have a fill box and a stroke box. So you can change the fill and stroke depending on what you have selected. So if I choose the stroke, go in, assign a gradient. I need to make the stroke much bigger so you can see this. Hold on. Okay. Let me zoom out a bit. You'll see that it's going to apply, I'll wait a second. It's going to allow you to apply the stroke to the gradient in 3 different ways. You can go, essentially the default is within the stroke. You can apply it along the stroke, or you can apply it across the stroke. And that's what I did for the picture frame. Let me zoom in. It'll lag, I know. But you're going to see exactly what I can do. I can go in and create some really cool effects, really, really amazing things with these. So we've got gradient on stroke. We've got the patterns. We've got the trace. We've got lots of little improvements, also little things that have been greatly improved, actually. A couple simple things that I really enjoy. I really like speeding things up. Let's say you want to rename a layer or rename an artboard. You're going to find that we have inline editing now, which means that if I have a layer name like flower, you can double-click on it and rename it right in line. This works for a lot of things that we have. If you want to work with transparency, give me a second here. You're going to see that in the transparency panel, it'll take a second, we now have a make mask to make an opacity mask. Instead of having to go to the menu, instead of doing things like that, it's a make and release mask button, which switches back and forth. So we've got lots of different things, lots of things that are out there for us. Another thing, kind of a simple or different thing, I guess you could say, the Save for Web options have been optimized. So in Illustrator, we no longer, I'll give it a second here, we no longer have Save for Web and Devices. It's now called Save for Web. And
Brian, I think we're going to have to give it a longer second. We're still stuck on the image of the banana with a purple circle around it.
What? Are you frozen? Are you kidding me? I believe I'm frozen. Okay. I really don't understand why it's doing this today.
It might pick up in a minute. It's been doing that. Although this one seems to be frozen.
Should I try and unshare and then share again, or?
Yeah, we can try that.
Okay. I apologize, everyone. I'll see if I can kick this in the pants real quick. Hold on. I'm going to stop sharing. You will not see my screen for a minute, so don't.
Oh, wait, here we. Okay, yeah.
Of course, it just came back in, didn't it?
A little bit.
Hold on. I'm going to go back and share now, so be patient. It should take a a second or two here. Come on. We're back to where I was before. It won't let me do anything.
Okay. So I'll take it.
Yep. Just 1 minute. We're going to try and just make a quick adjustment here so we can get this to work.
Okay. All right. So you see nothing, right? Just the WebEx
Correct.
screen? Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Okay.
Switching back.
All right. Hang on. Yeah, well, let me share. It's literally grayed out desktop. It looks like it's stuck. Oh, boy. Okay. Hand puppets.
Oh, wait. I'm seeing your screen now. Is it working for you?
Okay, yeah, there we go. It just kicked in. Here,
Okay.
let me do this. I'm going to show a menu. See if you can see this menu. File, save for web.
Yes.
See the screen now? Okay, George. Okay. All right. Yeah, exactly, Christopher. Thank you.
I know. We'll try this again.
Yeah, let's try again. All right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to Photoshop. Illustrator. There are other things I could show you. There are different things. I've shown you the bulk of the big different things. Let me quit Illustrator. New. Okay. It's that fun world of technology. Yes. Thank you. All right. Let me quit Illustrator. And don't save, whatever. All right. Let me go over to Photoshop and let's cross our fingers. So with Photoshop, can everybody see this first of all? Can you see? Okay.
We're getting out of Illustrator right now.
Getting out of Illustrator. Okay. I'll just start talking about Photoshop, and I'll just take it easy. Had a second. Yeah. Okay. So in Photoshop, when you open the application, Photoshop CS6, you're going to see one of the big things that we have as a difference is the UI. Now, some of you are going to like this, some of you are going to love this, some of you are not going to like it. And the thing about it is it's a dark UI, which is similar to, let's say, Adobe After Effects or now Illustrator CS6. We can go in and change this if you want to in the preferences. So do I dare do this? If I go to Photoshop Preferences, I'm going to wait a minute. Hold on. You're going to see that we have a preference called Interface. I'm going to open this and just pause. We can change the appearance or the color theme, it's called. So you can go in and change the dark, the light, make it nothing moving again. Great. Okay. I don't know if we're going to be able to keep going.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. Well, why don't we take questions if there are any questions, and then we can circle back and,
Okay.
We'll look again and see all of our, make sure that all the settings are correct, and maybe we can just try to do another, webinar in the future with what's new in CS6, like the applications that you weren't able to get to.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So. All
Sorry,
right, well,
everyone.
Yeah, I really apologize. This is one of those things that I just, If you have any questions on the two programs that I covered, and like I said, I really apologize. I wish we could have got to more. Yeah, my main interest is Photoshop 6. I agree, Lawrence. Let me just say a couple things about Photoshop, okay? Photoshop, there's a lot of amazing that they did. It's made much faster. There's now a Mercury Engine built in, which means that you can take advantage of your speedy machine. You can do, I don't know how many of you have ever done Liquify before, but let's say you do Liquify in Photoshop CS6 on a humongous image. There's no stalling now. There's live preview. It goes through and even transforming and doing different things like that. It's fast. It's really, really super fast. We can also go in and do things like save in background. Matter of fact, we can't see it here, but as far as file handling, it'll save it in the background if you want. You can turn it on and off, which means every 10 minutes or something like that, it'll save, your information. We also have Autorecover, which allows you to auto-recover files in Photoshop now. And this is stuff that you can turn off or, not work with if you don't want. Things like Content-Aware Move. This is a phenomenal tool that I wish I could show you. You can take, if you all probably know about like Patch Tool and things like that. Well, we have the Content-Aware Move, which allows us to select something like a person, drag it over to another area, and what it does, it doesn't just copy that person. It actually goes over to where it was and uses Content Aware to fill it in, and then it copies the person or whatever you copy into the new position. So it's doing two things at once. It's really, really smart. It really is. The crop tool is all new. Crop tool, you'd think that they could never do anything with the crop tool, right? You're like, why touch the crop tool? Everybody uses it, but it has auto centering now. It's got there's some amazing things you can do with the crop tool. There's 3 new blurs. We have like field, iris, and tilt shift. Tilt shift is something that a lot of people do with images to make them look like scenes, like model scenes. But we can now go in and do things like have field blur where it's all visual on the screen. It's an easy way to be able to blur and things like that. But we have adaptive wide angle. A lot of the brightness, let's see, I'm trying to think here. A lot of video editing, things like that. And I think I'm going to stop there. It's not really helping, I don't think, to just talk through these features. But yeah, I think we need to do this again. Hopefully in the new coming up here for all the new ones that I did not hit. So let's see. Do we have any other chat? A new webinar? Yes, Lawrence, I agree. We'll definitely do that. What new features in Dreamweaver do you particularly like? To be honest, I actually like, they've got some of the new CSS3 things in there, which are pretty cool as far as working with, let's say, animation, that sort of thing. They also have the liquid layout, which is, I think, they're doing a pretty good job with that. So they've got a whole thing on liquid layout, being able to create these types of layouts to make it to where you can create something that is, I guess, will adjust to the size of the viewport, to the size of the document window or the window that you're looking at it in. Those two things right there are just phenomenal. The old Radial blur interface window is not very good. Is it improved in CS6? No, the 3 that I have, the 3 that I use a lot that I saw that were new, the tilt shift, the field, and the iris, that's the one that has the new and improved feature interface. Are files still interchangeable between Adobe and Final Cut Pro? As far as I know, yes. We already saw that. Let's see, will CS6 Master Collection work with a 2008 Mac Pro Intel with OS 10.6.8? Wow. Daniel, I would literally go to Maul's website or to Adobe's website and check the specs on it. I know that it's got to be at least 6.8 something to work, so I would definitely go up there and check it out. Does the new CS have the Muse program, or is that still in beta? Muse, I don't know how many of you have done this, or I've heard of Muse, rather. Muse is no longer in beta. It's been announced. It's actually supposed to be shipping pretty quick here, and it's going to be part of the Creative Cloud, which means it's a monthly subscription, essentially. And Creative Suite, I believe, as like box-type Creative Suite, is not going to be shipping with Muse. Muse is going to be a cloud program, it's called. I understand in PS6, RAW menu is greatly improved and enhanced. Any comments? Yeah, RAW has been improved. They've also included the latest version of RAW. Of course, you've got to figure that, right? I haven't really delved or dived that deeply into it to see a lot of the differences there, but I know that it does support the latest RAW features. So, sorry, I can't give any more on that. But how much RAM do you have on this demo? I think I might have 8 gigs on this machine. This is a brand new Mac machine, you guys. It's pretty loaded. So, and to be honest, they're suggesting, I think, a gig of RAM at minimum. I believe that that's in the spec, but of course they want you to have more, I think. So, let's see. Can you move or side things X, Y? What do we got here? Well, it lasted. Yes, I agree. 30 minutes per program. Their #1 favorite new feature of the entire design suite. Man, you had to ask that, didn't you? I don't know. That's a great question. You know, to be honest, it's personal. I do a lot of EPUB, so I would have to say that it was the liquid layout features in InDesign, but that's just me. I also, in Illustrator, the gradient on a path, or gradient on stroke rather, is phenomenal for me. I do a lot of that stuff. So, of course, Photoshop. Come on, you know. In Photoshop, you can move or size things with X, Y coordinates or width and height. We do have some capabilities. You're going to find that in Photoshop CS6, we now have, if you're changing content, like let's say you change a brush size, this is actually a really cool thing, and you use the keyboard commands to change a brush size, it now gives you feedback. So it'll show sort of like the measurement label in Illustrator or InDesign. It'll show you things like the blur, the size, stuff like that, which is really pretty cool. That's great. I love that, actually. Can you think of anything else? Let's see. In CS6, were there improvements for your 3D design tools? I know that within Photoshop, yes, there were some improvements with 3D that I've seen, which are pretty phenomenal, actually, as well as video in Photoshop. I wish I could have shown you some of that stuff because it is just, it's knockout, man. As far as the other design tools, video editing tools, I don't really use those, but yeah, 3D design tools, there were some pretty amazing things. Anything else anybody could think of? We're gonna do this again. We definitely will. That way we can see everything. We can spend the time we need to see all these features, and we'll get to Photoshop. How about that? Because that's the big one. So.
Yeah,
all
absolutely. Right. All right. Well, thank you, Brian.
Yeah. Sorry.
But we're definitely going to circle back, and we'll do this again for everyone. So. Yeah, we'll have a Photoshop 6 session for sure. I'm reading all the chats that are coming in.
I know.
All right, thanks for your patience. Thanks. Yeah, definitely. Really appreciate it, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.